Hello and welcome to episode 406 of Retro Encounter, RPG Fan's weekly podcast on many topics. I'm Mike Sollosi, and listeners, maybe you listened to us last week. The four of us were really excited to play Dragon Age 11. Oh no, it happened already. It already happened. Wow. I even said I was trying not to do it. But listeners, we played Dragon Quest 11 in the months of January and February, and all four of us are excited to talk about it. But let's introduce the rest of the panel, starting with Wes Iliff.
Hi, everybody.
And Tin Manuel.
Hi.
And Gio Castillo.
Hello.
Gio, Tin, Wes. I'm really going to try and say Dragon Quest and not Dragon Age for this whole episode. It's already happened a couple times in the pre-show. But it's my fault for trying to play literally 4 games with Dragon in the title all around the same window. But right now we're going to live in Dragon Quest XI, continuing our Year of the Dragon episodes in 2024. We talked all about the Act 1 of Dragon Quest XI last week, and since then we've all made it through Act 3, and I know we're excited to talk about it. But I think it's true for both of you, Gio and Tin. You finished playing it for the first time. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. So I guess you just your overall feelings, positive or negative, or what have you.
I was emotional. I cried at the end, and it wasn't even that like sad or anything, but just like you really feel the weight of the series, of like the whole legacy of the series at the end of Act 3, and it's I couldn't help it. Like I loved every single second of Act 3, and I think I came away thinking, oh, this is like my favorite Dragon Quest game, and like one of my favorite games of all time. I love the cast, I love the story, and it was just very rewarding. I got the platinum actually, and it was like I didn't regret like all 127 hours of it.
That's basically how I felt in 2018 playing this for the first time. I got the platinum trophy. I played it for over 110 hours, and I was so overwhelmed that I feel like it became one of my favorites then too. And Gio, I think the last time you and I were on a podcast, not about Dragon Quest, I think it was those Bloodborne episodes. So we just keep talking about your favorite games of all time on the podcast. Yeah, living in the PS4 together. Yeah, I think we could do a lot worse. But Tin, I know that you're also playing Dragon Quest XI for the first time. What were your feelings after finishing Act 3?
Compared to a lot of you guys in here who has played a lot of the past Dragon Quest titles, I also got very emotional. Like not even not even just the ending, but like the entire time I was playing this game, like just the pacing of it and the storytelling and the fact that every character in this game is important and just re- it's like the complete um, RPG game that has that really emphasizes a lot when it comes to companions and party mechanics. So eh, I think I've been missing out not playing uh, the other Dragon Quest titles. So I'm super glad I gave this a shot, and this podcast like pushed me also to finally know what the fuss is all about. Why everyone in RPG fan seems to be talking about it.
Not everyone an RPG fan, because there's a couple of people I could mention by name right now who openly disdain this game, and I won't
Shouldn't
say
do
any
that.
of their
It'll
names.
be a fight.
No, it's plural and not just one specific host of Random Encounter. But yeah, and Tin, I'm almost worried for you, because if you try to go back and play the older Dragon Quest games, you're going to be going through the Road to Rhone and Dragon Quest 2 and being like, oh man, I miss Jade and Veronica and Serena. Because you really did pick one of the best ones to play for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think we're going to be revisiting this a while. I don't think there's a lot of wasted space in the world of Dragon Quest XI, because every city you visit, something new is happening
Yeah.
there in Act 1 versus Act 2 versus Act 3, and revisiting and retrying things you did is almost always rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
But Wes, this was not your first time playing Dragon Quest
No.
11. I think am I remembering correctly? This is your third run,
Yes, this is my third complete run.
right? So, what feelings are going through your mind and heart replaying this game for the podcast?
I feel like this solidified the game as maybe my favorite RPG of the last decade. Because it's ultimately like everything that you would want out of a modern interpretation of the classic RPG. And we don't get a lot of that specific mix nowadays, weirdly enough, where you get something that executes on the level of a classic RPG, that traditional structure and combat and everything, but reevaluated in a way that makes sense to modern times, that isn't slow in plotting. Like modern games trying to harken back to old school games have a lot of troubles with ignoring, trying to avoid some of the pitfalls that those old games can fall into. And Dragon Quest XI does it deftly, effortlessly, and I think it's an absolutely phenomenal game as a result of that.
And I mean, every decision that they made in Dragon Quest XI feels like they're trying to nudge the series forward into the modern era. Like you can ride around your horse on the map and just plow through weaker enemies or avoid enemies easily, and instead of being chained to random encounters. The combat is pretty snappy and fast moving, and in the S version onwards, you can even put a fast forward option to make the animations go 50% faster. And fast travel is crazy easy. They cut out a lot of the fluff that makes RPGs seem old, so that even when Dragon Quest XI's pacing is a little slow, especially at the beginning, um, I feel like once you sort of feel a groove, it really moves quickly. Even though if you do most of the things there are to do, you could easily cross the 100-hour mark, as Gio alluded to earlier. But let's just jump right into the plot because we talked all about Act 1 in the previous episode and the 8 core characters and a lot of the goings on in the Dragon Quest XI world. In Act 2 is where everything changes. At the start of Act 2, the world is sort of ruined. There's if you're playing the S version, you do sort of side interludes with Jade, Eric, and Sylvando in sort of like mini quests to learn about what happened to them in the break between Act 1 and 2. But that's not in the PS4 version. Uh, and you know they're pretty good. Like they give you a little bit of extra context. It's doesn't make it what happens to Jade any less messed up, though. But the gist of it is, the hero was thrown into the ocean. He was saved by the mermaid queen, who turns him into a fish. And I have to admit, I laughed out loud when you wake up and you're just a fish staring into a mirror.
Bluefish.
Yeah, it's like lol, you're a fish. um, and you eventually get back onto shore with some guidance from the Mermaid Queen, and you find your way back to Cobblestone, the starting town of the game, which is where the King of Heliodor has now come to his senses. The Mordegon, the demon lord that was possessing him, has now taken over the entire world. Mordegon, voiced by Takuya Kuroda in the Japanese version. So I've been interacting with Kazuma Kiryu's voice a lot this month. And the world is shrouded in darkness because the power of the purple orb is now contained inside a monster that makes it permanently nighttime around the world. And the first boss of Act 2 is defeating that boss so that the day-night cycle can return. But the King of Heliodor is residing in Cobblestone, and so is Hendrik. Hendrik, the knight who was one of your pursuers in Act 1, has now realized that no, the Luminary really wasn't a monster. He was the hero all along. And he teams up with you in protecting Cobblestone from the demon army. And then you defeat the skeleton knight at that's in Heliodor Castle, and daylight returns to the world, and Hendrik becomes your first party member in Act 2. So we sort of avoided talking about Hendrik in the part 1 of this podcast. Starting with you, let's say Tin, like what was your reaction to Hendrik joining the good guys?
Oh, I was actually glad that they added him. Because his buffs are so good or so helpful rather. Like compared to Act One, it's like also playing. It was a lot easier, like fighting enemies overall. And in Act Two, there's a bit of a challenge already. And at first as well during the Act One, I was kind of annoyed at him. Like he was just this a knight who was just following orders and stuff, and like it. What makes you think that the luminary is like the bad guy? Like he was really just under the command of the King Cornelia. So I find him annoying at first in Act One, but yeah, I'm glad things turned around in Act Two with him. So yeah, I actually like him eventually because he's such a useful character.
Yeah, he's really tanky if you give him like
Hmm.
shield and axe,
Yeah,
or he if you give him a great sword, he's almost as good as at the hero and dealing a lot of damage.
yeah. I was also using him with a great sword actually.
Yeah, my big change from playing it now from playing it 6 years ago is I had the hero main great swords instead of double swords,
Hmm.
and it's excellent. Swords dance with a great sword is basically carried me the entire second half of the game. And so I made Hendrik more defensive, more shieldy,
Hmm.
but because Axe is a pretty good move set in this game as well. But Gio, you're also playing this for the first time. Did you sort of expect the turn from Hendrik, or what did you think of this?
So Hendrik being part of the party was like kind of something I was expecting. I don't know why. I think I'd heard that it. I heard it like through
Somewhere.
osmosis, like online. I kind of felt the same way as Tin, like where I didn't like him because he was such an a hole like during Act One. Like it was like I didn't trust either him or Jasper, but like apparently like Hendrik was pure. He was just being manipulated by
Hmm.
Mordegon, and by the end he kind of won me over. Actually, uh, I went great swords with him all the way. Unbridled Blade and Hella Chopper were just
Yeah,
yeah crucial in the early
yeah.
goings.
I use Helichopter in for the hero throughout all through Act One. That was one of the best moves to use. Yeah.
And then although he gets like Gear Falcon slash like later in the game, and that's busted. Like that's really strong.
Yes. Yeah. Griff Falcon Slash. Right. Just a
Yeah.
better version of Falcon Slash, which is already one of the best moves for for a sword character. So yeah, totally makes sense.
Oh, can I add something? It also bothered me that he kind of somewhat looks like he reminds me of Buzz Lightyear.
Oh, is it because he has sort of a is it because he has a very square jaw
Yeah,
a little
yeah, and
bit?
also the
Yeah.
purple hair. I don't know.
Oh yeah, because like Buzz Lightyear has that
Yeah,
thing on his head. Like yeah.
yeah, it was bothering me.
Wes, I don't know if you can transport yourself back to 2018, but how unexpected, if at all, was Hendrik joining the team right at the beginning of Act Two?
It was pretty unexpected to me, because I felt like the game very clearly showed you who the whole party was from the beginning. They had all the art, they had the loading screens, and stuff like that tricks me very easily. It's also tricked me in other games that I won't name for spoiler reasons. When they show you a full party and it doesn't include someone, I always fall for it. And Hendrik, I was especially glad about though, because I had an axe character, and him with axe and great shield is just the ultimate defensive character. Um, it's the first time in a Dragon Quest game I felt like I actually have a tank, which was kind of an interesting change of pace that I went with this time around. Whereas before it would always just be pump out as much damage as possible.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm trying to think of like, is there really a tank character in an older Dragon Quest game? You know what? I think if you do a full paladin build in Dragon Quest Nine, you can do a lot of tanking activity.
Hmm.
But that's a game that's sort of more about building your classes a certain way. And there, I guess there isn't really a lot of pure tank characters in the Dragon Quest games that
No,
have real characters.
no, it's not. It's not something that the series kind of builds toward the classic three character rotation. It's usually more about have someone who can heal and then have three people who can deal the most damage possible.
Yeah, and I think we alluded to this in the previous episode. Each of the main characters in Dragon Quest XI represents one of the jobs in Dragon Quest III. And all of them are represented there except for the merchant, who's Eric's old buddy Dirk, and the warrior, which is like, oh, that's weird. We have every job here except for warrior, but then nope, Hendrick's your warrior right at the beginning of Act 2.
He can even get the kind of classic Ragnar looking armor.
Yeah, he can get the reddish or pink Dragon Quest 3 and 4 warrior armor. Yep. And but that's his that's something for the end game. But continuing through the main game, after you defeat the skeleton at the in Heliodor Castle, you have a couple paths open to you. You can, I think the second character that joins you is either Rab or Sylvando, depending on which continent you go to first. And then once you get both of them, you can get Sylvando's ship, and so the character after Rab and Sylvando are either Eric or Jade. And then after those two, the seventh character that's guaranteed to join you is Serena, and then that gets you all the way back to Arborea, with where the next major plot moment happens. But before we get to those, let's talk about the re-recruiting or revisiting of all of the areas from all the towns from Act 1. Something is happening in basically every town that you have to either resolve or figure out um, or encounter. I mean, some of them maybe are skippable, but I think most of them aren't for the most part. You sort of have to do something in every town in order to continue the game. Is there any single anecdote or single character recruitment that stood out to you guys? I'll let you think about it now, and I'll go first because again, I think it's well documented. My favorite character in Dragon Quest XI is Sylvando, and what happens with Sylvando at the beginning of this game?
It's so fitting.
And you get the parade of young and middle-aged men just just running all through Phenomenon and eventually Puerto Valor is so funny. And if you play the Sylvando scenario in the S version, which I think is PC or Switch, and maybe they did a PS4 as well of that. You actually meet the individual members of the entourage, and it's like, oh, the one that plays the drum actually was a drummer in Gallipolis, and the one that's a middle-aged guy with a beard is really a middle-aged guy that just that like helped you build the tank that you travel on, and it's completely silly. You even get a costume for the hero that has you prancing along with him. Sylvando is just pure Riz, to be very Gen Z about it. His recruitment arc was equally parts hilarious and somehow touching because Sylvando reconciling with his dad is really, really sweet in this game.
It really is. I loved it. Like, and I just loved how like we see him, like we catch him like dancing with the Sylvando's
True.
like the little troop, like later on. Sorry, I just wanted to say that.
I mean, his dad's name is Rodrigo, and one of my favorite scenes in the game is when Hendrik realizes that he knew Sylvando when they were young, because Sylvando's birth name is Norberto, and when Sylvando says, "Oh, we should go visit my dad in Puerto Valor. He's a famous knight," and here Hendrik, who trained with Rodrigo as a child, was, wait, famous knight, Puerto Valor, you're his son, and then there's just like an anvil dropping sound effect when he realizes that his old sparring partner from his teenage years was a young Sylvando. But the circumstances of Sylvando leaving was Sylvando was being trained to be a swordsman by his dad. But then when the circus came to town, he escaped with them to be a circus performer because he loves to entertain and didn't want to just be a knight like his dad. But because he had like knighthood and honor and swordsmanship instilled in him. I think the player, well, the game hints that Rodrigo hates that Sylvando isn't a knight anymore. But that's not really what happens. When they reconcile, Sylvando's really nervous and Rodrigo's angry. But then he says that it's more like no. I'm not mad at you because you left. I'm mad at you because you said you were going to make the world smile, and the world's not smiling yet. Like he just cared more about Sylvando being true to himself and keeping his promises than about Sylvando's life choices, and they still love each other. So like I think it could have been handled poorly, but instead it's actually quite lovely, and
Yeah.
and it ends with, as Gio alluded to, Sylvando letting his entourage stay at Don Rodrigo's house, and eventually Don Rodrigo is dancing with them, and it's hilarious.
I hope all dads are like him.
A part of a wonderful tradition of dads with great mustaches in Dragon Quest games.
Oh.
Phenomenal mustache on that one.
Oh yeah. So does anyone have a recruitment arc, or even just a single town arc from Act Two that moved them specifically?
I wasn't really moved, but more of like I was shocked when I was about to recruit Rab again. When he was there on top of the mountain or something. And he was like super thin. I was like, at first, who's this? And then I was like, why is he wearing Rab's clothes? Is this Rab? I was like wondering, and I was so shocked to find out that it's actually him. And then like in this scenario, after actually recruiting him, at night they were gonna have a feast, or like uh it was about time for them to get some rest and eat, and the next day he just returned to his old body. I was
Now,
like,
now,
what?
Tin. I know you're much younger than me, but once you get to a certain age, oh boy, it's really hard to shed those pounds after a big dinner. Let me tell you.
but but yeah, I really like Rab in this game, and so far among all of the games that I've played, he's really the best grandpa in the RPG world for me.
I mean, I mean, I've said this before, but between Rab and Chalky at the big at in Act One,
Mm.
and and everything you learn about about like even the kings and queens in the previous game, there's a lot of great grandpas in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I am such a sucker for that portion with Rob, because every time the hero and Rob connect as like grandfather and grandson, it kind of
Yeah.
gets me a little verklempt.
Yeah, it's really
Um,
sweet.
Mm-hmm.
and they really do that there when like they're training together with their ghostly master. Um, and Rob is kind of thrown by the idea of like, oh God, I have to fight my grandson to help him train. I don't feel good about that, but oh well, might as well throw myself in head first. And this whole concept of like this monastic society that trains the kings of Dundrasil. So there's like this little bit of kung fu poet warrior mixed into every one of those kings and queens from what otherwise looks like a traditional um, fantasy, castle town. Just delights me.
And we were mentioning how almost every town in the game is like a fake representation of some world culture. This place, which, oh shoot, I'm forgetting what it's called. Where Grandmaster Pang lives.
Angri-La.
Angri-La, that's it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Angri-La, which is I guess a pun of Shangri-La, is clearly a fake Tibet, or a maybe a fake Shaolin monastery,
Mm,
and Grandmaster Pang is Rab's master, who I believe is dead in Act Two,
yes.
but exists still in the spirit world and is able
Yeah.
to train the hero and Rab in the spirit world. But it was it was a surprising arc for Rob, and he even gets his pearly gates or spirit bomb or whatever technique that is really good throughout Act Two.
That actually introduces a really interesting plot point where, because Yggdrasil has fallen, lives are not getting recycled as they normally would, and most of them are going to the afterlife and just dissipating. But because she's so strong of will, Rob's master ends up kind of sticking around there, which is an interesting little twist on. You know that the world is in bad shape after Yggdrasil fell. You don't until then get a good feel for the fact that like it's not just the physical world that really
Mm-hmm.
was leaning on relying on that tree being there.
Yeah, and I mean, just this beautiful tree that representing life being a withered or burnt out husk hovering in the center of the world is a, I don't know, it's just so stark. And I remember that when this game was coming out, the promotional art was like you would see the world tree, and it was like on one side it was beautiful and living, and on the other side it was like dark and burnt. And I'm like, oh no, what happens in this game? What's going to go on? And they told us right in the surface. But I mean, the end result I think was still powerful. Like it's. I think it's as effective as what happens in Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah, it's very World of Ruin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gio, you haven't talked about any favorite scenario in Act Two yet. Do you have one to share with the rest of the class?
Oh, the Eric sequence with his sister, Gildiga, like the Gildiga Spectral Sentinel, that whole
Neat.
story, like, um, it's really sweet. It's just really sweet. Like, I can kind of regret because like I'm like the older brother in my family, so uh, I I know how it feels like to feel responsible for your younger sister, and I like that. It was one of the few twists like I didn't really expect per se. I don't know why. Like I just didn't think that they would bring this. I thought the sister died. It just became a statue and that's it. But yeah, it's really sweet and it's like kind of a really human thing, like to have that, like for Mia, the sister, to have those kinds of feelings towards her brother, like kind of like this jealousy or like this like feeling of resentment for like abandoning her and all that.
Yeah, I mean resentment and despair. Because I mean to clarify that a little bit, in case listeners have forgotten or haven't played, um, before the events of the game, Eric and Mia found a cursed necklace that lets you turn things to stone, but it sort of took over Mia's body and turned her. I'm sorry, it turns into gold, not into stone. And but it sort of took over Mia's body and turned her into a golden statue. And Eric left the Viking camp that they lived in and was searching over the world, stealing treasures to try to find a way to turn her back into being a human. And he met the Luminary, and we know what went on from there. But Mordegon, while he's ruining the world around him, finds the Mia statue and sees it so full of resentment and despair that he frees her from the gold prison and makes her one of his spectral sentinels, which are his six sort of generals, a giant gold monster named Gildiga. And defeating Gildiga is, and Eric meeting Mia for the first time in probably years is one of the sort of sub scenarios in Act 2. And it's powerful because I mean, also when you meet Eric in Act 2, he starts out amnesiac, but he remembers his past and tells you what happened to Mia.
Mm-hmm.
When you find the place where her statue once stood, and then that's before you go and fight Mia as Gildiga. But yeah, it's real powerful, and it's another sort of how the another element of the theme of like of family that permeates through Dragon Quest 11, the hero's relationship with his parents and grandfather, Jade's relationship with her father, Eric and his sisters, Lavando and his father. Everyone in this game, oh, and Veronica and Serena are sisters, and something happens between them. Like everything in this game is about sort of um not necessarily not necessarily struggling or reconciling, but just about familial relationships and bonds, and how everyone has these family relationships, but also together they're a found family of eight on their own. I was sort of not expecting that the Mia stuff to happen, because Eric had probably the least backstory of anyone
Mm-hmm.
go this far into the game that you knew of. But then when you learn the Mia stuff, it really hits you like a ton of bricks. It's some powerful stuff. And I kind of hate the dungeon that you fight Gildiga in, because it's just nothing but golden corridors and stairs up and down and locked doors, and it's like, oh, just get me out of here.
I love gold. Like I just think of gold member the whole time.
the
I was
the
actually a bit.
smell, the texture.
I was actually a bit spoiled, like because like when I first heard about Dragon Quest treasures, And it's also because I played the demo. It was like, it was actually also surprising when I played because I was like, oh, isn't this the guy who has his sister? And I was like, oh, it's Mia and it's Eric. It's them. Like
Yeah,
I was so shocked as well.
because Tin played the Dragon Quest Treasures demo before she played like
Yeah.
11.
Oh yeah, no, that makes sense. There's a long history of Dragon Quest spin-offs being younger versions of characters. I mean, we have
Mhm.
the Dark Prince right now with Sorrow from Dragon Quest 4. The original Dragon Quest monsters was Terry and Millie from Dragon Quest 6. One of the later Dragon Quest monsters games that I think was Japan only was Kieran when he was very young. That's Caravan Heart for the GBA.
Oh.
There's young Yangus and young Torneko Talon games. It's yeah, they're all over the place.
I actually like that touch. Like over the years, what they do with their games, they still try to like give some things for old fans.
Like some, yeah,
Mm.
No, it's fun and rewarding. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
do you remember? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how like if everyone was on Final Fantasy forums as much as I was 15 years ago. But when they announced Crisis Core for the PSP, and we were getting a Zack game from like before the events of FF7, people lost their damn minds. Like when you when you
Yeah.
have like it's fun and rewarding to see video games like sort of explore their unspoken pasts,
Hmm.
or like give us bonus footage of things we know happened but haven't seen in their proper games. Like it's I mean, it's always cool when there is a prequel or sequel
Yeah.
that sort of rewards fans for loving a series as much as they do.
Hmm.
Whatever. I mean, I hope they give us Dragon Quest prequels forever.
I know. Even in 12.
yeah. Whatever shape 12 might take,
Hmm.
I'm sure we'll get something.
Yeah, we don't know I don't think we've seen anything about 12 since its
True.
announcement in May 2021.
All we know is that it's a serious adult-ish version of Dragon Quest. Like that's the promise, but we'll see.
I mean, that's even that I think is a little underexplored. But Wes, are we ready to move on, or is there any scenario from Act Two you want to bring up specifically?
We hit the ones that I was most interested in, to be honest. We could talk about the infamy of Jade's,
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
but
Jade's just
also maybe
creepy.
it's better off less left unexplored.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing I guess about Jade is that when she finally does rejoin you, her move where she turns into Bunny Girl Jade is actually pretty strong because it gives her a free attack boost. But yeah, it's like I mean, Jade, in Octagonia, where you fight Booga, another one of the Spectral Sentinels, he sort of has Jade under mind control powers, where she's a sexy bunny girl. And this game has a lot of sexy bunny girls in it, but I did not enjoy Jade. I did not enjoy Jade's turn as one. Whatever. At least it made you really want to kill Booga.
Hmm.
That was real encouragement.
She was Jade as a whole kind of felt underserved by the game, like in terms of like backstory. We didn't get really much of a sense of who she was other than she's the Luminary's sister. She's King Carnelian's daughter. She's Booga's whatever. I don't know. I compared to Serena and Veronica in terms of like female characters, she didn't feel like she had as much going on, which is sad to me.
I think we mentioned this in the previous episode, but they give Jade like 100 cool moments where she's just kicking someone's ass in
Yeah,
Act
I think
One.
that's
So,
how
so
they tried to make it up for.
yeah, so like they make Jade really super cool in Act One, but then in Act Two, it's sort of demeaning how she
Hmm.
becomes a monster's like pet bunny girl.
Hmm.
But at least when she's freed of the mind control, she's justifiably furious and is back to kicking ass as part of your team again. Um, I actually build Jade the same way now versus 6 years ago. All the way martial arts and spears. Like she's so good with them. I've never touched her claws tree before.
Just oomph her and watch her multi thrust away.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yep.
oof, multi
Yeah.
thrust. Maybe some pink tornado is pretty good. But after you get those first seven in your party, including Hendrik, there's one person you haven't met yet, and that's Veronica. You meet Serena right after you open up the Ice Kingdom again. It's Queen Friesabel and the Witch Crystalinda. What's the name of the town?
Sniffleheim.
Yeah,
Sniffleheim. That's it. That's it.
Sniffleheim.
So, yeah, based off of Niflheim, the frozen hell from Norse mythology. That's it. Yeah. After you take care of everything in Sniffleheim, you're able to open up the path towards Arborea, which was covered in ice. And Serena rejoins your party. You take the path back to Arborea, and then maybe I think the single most devastating moment in all of Dragon Quest XI happens, where you think, oh, I bet Veronica is here waiting for us, and you follow a Yggdrasil route and discover Veronica's lifeless body. And then the hero sees a flashback thanks to the Yggdrasil route, where Veronica is the one that shielded the party from Mordegon's attack that destroyed the World Tree, saving the other six of your group. But she lost her life in the glade in Arborea where she and Serena played as children. I mean, this was not something I expected until sort of just before it happened when I first played Dragon Quest XI, because Veronica is not. I wouldn't say she's the most. She's the most serious character in Act One. She's sort of she's sort of like your sassy little girl. She's funny. Like there's the contrast of Serena being the younger, more demure sister, while Veronica's the older sister. Even though she appears to be 10 years younger than her twin. She's very she has a bold personality, and so for her to be the one that tragically loses her life, just I don't know. It just seems wrong
Yeah, it
and
feels
hurt
unfair.
and feels unfair. Exactly, and
Mhm.
it results in Serena sort of dramatically cutting off her hair in what we call a Final Fantasy IX moment,
Mhm.
and borrowing Veronica's powers to be Super Serena for the rest of Act Two.
The most
But
powerful character in the game.
yeah, pretty much. It's
Uh,
unfair that she can heal and use spell echo at the same time. But I mean, what did we think of this? Tin, did you know this was going to happen ahead of time?
oh,
Like Mia and Eric?
not at all. When I reached to that part when I was already hearing Serena playing the harp, I was also like um excited to meet the both of them, but I was also surprised that, oh, how come it's just Serena? Where's Veronica? And I was already starting to get worried a bit, and then after a while, uh, it the game just broke me. I was just crying after a while, and it also really made me cry more when everyone was already like grieving, and Serena was just still trying to be,
Strong.
yeah, trying to be strong and all that. So yeah, that cutting of hair also made me cry. That scene. So it also didn't make sense to me that, like what you said earlier, that Veronica was like the strong one and all that. But then uh, it after a while, I also realized that it was also kind of like Serena's awakening thing, like a moment for her. Like it was clearly obvious in Act One that um, Serena also felt underbaked, like even in Act One, and like I barely actually used her as well in my party because I didn't think I needed that much healing as well.
I only use her for certain boss fights, really, but
Yeah,
for random battles, I almost never use Serena.
She doesn't know
yeah.
hustle dance.
Yeah, she doesn't know
So,
oomph or hustle dance. What are you talking about?
so yeah, I actually still like how it played out, but um, at first I was also just. It also took some time before I finally appreciated uh, the new Serena.
When you say new Serena, I just think of Like a Dragon again.
Sorry.
I'm sorry for having Like a Dragon on the brain, but no, I totally agree. It's and there's even a scene at the end of Act One, when you're traveling up Yggdrasil and you take a break in the final campsite before Act One ends, where Serena and Veronica in
Oh
their
yeah.
tent promise to always be there for each other,
Mm-hmm.
and Veronica sort of like dismisses her. It's like, yeah, of course I'll be here for you, of course, no matter
Yeah.
what. And that's foreshadowing I did not see at the time when I first played this game, but now that I knew it was coming, playing it this year was just like, oh no, oh
Yeah.
no, I know what's about to happen. That just enhances the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think the scene losing Veronica is about as emotionally affecting as the series has been. Like maybe this side of Dragon Quest V, like it stings in a pretty
Mm-hmm.
major way.
Tanny, you got to play Dragon Quest V. That's a real good one.
I keep telling her.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
keeps telling me.
It's
I would.
it's top tier. It's not my absolute favorite in the series, but I acknowledge its greatness.
But yeah, I was told that I have to prepare myself emotionally as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, losing Veronica is one of the most devastating moments in the whole game, but at least we get Super Serena out of it. And after this event, we're pointed in the direction of heavens above. And basically, I mean, it happens a little fast, but we just magically gain the ability to summon a giant whale and fly around and fly around the world.
I,
One of the
Um,
better methods of sky conveyance that I've seen in a game.
yeah, I mean, the last time we had a flying whale was maybe Tales of Vesperia, and before that, I mean, you got to think of Final Fantasy IV, right? That's proud company to be in. But you learn that there's a community of watchers that has been supporting the luminary for centuries, and but this one's been ruined by Mordegon, and there's only one surviving little child watcher, which is child watcher sounds horrible. That was a mistake on my part. Um, but the heavens above area gives you guidance for what you need to do next, and it's to find the mystic hammer, the
Mhm.
magical orichalcum, and the fires of Mount Hoto to reforge a new sword of light. Because
Mhm.
Mordegon took the sword of white and transformed it into a sword of darkness in just before destroying the world tree. So and that has you revisiting events in Gallipolis, Hato, and and also explore a new dungeon called the Battleground, which is only accessible from the air. And this is basically the end of Act Two. Now that you're able to fly, you're able to very easily travel around the world quickly and explore some hidden areas, get some new equipment. There is a sort of a everyone let's do this together moment when you reforge a new sword of light,
Yeah.
and then you take on the Mordegon's dungeon, the Fortress of Fear, which is a pretty meaty final dungeon. You have to shatter the ceiling of every floor and
Mhm.
then you borrow a flying enemy to fly up to the next floor and clear it out. It's arranged in a pretty cool manner. And then you eventually have to like get the final key to unlock the treasure room on the first floor. And if you miss any treasure in the Fortress of Fear, you can find it in Act Three, hidden in some new treasure chests, which is a nice touch. Um, but finally confronting Mordegon, and also Jasper is the second to last boss in Fortress of
Mhm.
Fear. And you get some nice moments out of Hendrik when you finally take down Jasper for the first time. I mean, I was talking about how like family bonds and found family are a theme in Dragon Quest XI. I think Hendrik really did view Jasper as a brother, but Jasper really only viewed Hendrik as a rival and maybe someone that was unfairly lucky, which is the imbalance of their relationship is, I don't know. It's tragic and adds some depth to Hendrik's character, but it doesn't make it any less satisfying to kick Jasper's ass. Yeah, I'm rambling a little bit, but I just think the end game of Act Two is really pretty cool,
It is cool.
and you fight some half dragon, half demon nonsense at the end when Mordegon shows you his final form.
Yeah, it actually works so well as an ending. Like,
Mhm.
I could understand why people just stopped there. Um, I have no idea how they managed to pull off Act Three after that, but they did, which is really cool. But Yeah, I actually really like how Mordegon works as a final boss, like with the More Dragon thing, and how you kind of have to manage both, or else they come back or something. And yeah, it's really cool. I thought it was like one of the better quote unquote final bosses I've played, especially in Dragon Quest.
Yeah, a lot of people do think that Act 3 is unnecessary or even view it negatively. I am not one of those people, but it is chatter that you see in Dragon Quest discussions and communities. And we're going to talk about Act 3, I promise. But I also have heard of people not realizing there's an Act 3 because, I mean, after the end of Act 2, credits do roll
Mm-hmm.
and there is some hope in the ending, but I mean the world is still destroyed and the world tree is still dead. And like Wes mentioned earlier, this means the world state is one where new lives won't be renewed. And I don't know how that can affect childbirth or anything in this world. Excuse me. They don't go quite into the biological implications of what that means.
This is some near level of dystopia that we're dealing with.
Yeah, no, it's a real rough dystopia out at the end of Act 2, and Act 3 is sort of a way of fixing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we don't need to dwell on Act 2 anymore, I think. At the beginning of Act 3, you discover some artifacts that suggest that maybe you can use the Sword of Light to travel back in time. And at first, your party is interested in it because maybe they could go back in time and prevent this tragedy from happening. But then, when you meet the Keeper of Time at the end of a clock dungeon, they say that it's impossible to go back. Only one person can go back, and it might mean that the world uh the current world you're living in might be destroyed for this new world. And it's and in your team the rest of your party actually, after they hear that, they try to stop you.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, the luminary persists and uses the Sword of Light to travel back in time to just before the world ends to prevent it from occurring. um and a lot of people, because of the implication that everyone that it undoes everything that happens in Act 2, these relationships are no more, like they never happened. um like especially Hendrick's relationship, like Hendrick does not go through the same struggle and reconciliation in Act 3 that he went through in Act 2, and that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. But because I actually love Act 3, because the idea of the world being broken, you struggling to save the world, and then getting a chance to unbreak the world and create a world that's better for people to live in is appealing to me at some level. But it was upsetting to a lot of fans. What were y'all's reactions? You first, Wes.
Honestly, it fits Dragon Quest as a series. It's that heroic fantasy that you want to live out at the end of every Dragon Quest game. Uh, I don't think a lot of longtime series fans will necessarily be as upset by it as a lot of people who are used to, other more recent RPGs getting into the series through this game. Because that kind of heroic fantasy has always been a part of Dragon Quest. There's always been kind of a darker edge to elements of Dragon Quest, but ultimately it is kind of a hero's journey, and this kind of completes that hero's journey as it gives you that extra chance to kind of push into an actual happy ending. Because when you really think about the end of Act 2, that's not a good place to leave the world in.
Well, same for me. I also do like the what they did, that Act 3 is also just an optional thing to do, but at the same time, after playing Act 3, that's when you'd realize, not, oh, this is really the ending that everyone should get. Like, that's what I felt.
Mm. I had some qualms like about how maybe it would undo some of like the character development for like Hendrik and Serena. And I wondered till the end, like how come they didn't just like kind of like let the party members retain their memories somehow. But at the end of the day, it's like it's the hero's journey. It's the luminary story, and it's still they still kind of made it satisfying somehow at the end, despite I kind of understand like just the people's complaints about how it kind of makes a lot of Act 2 not irrelevant, but like it undoes some of the important events that take place in Act Two, and I don't know, it just works. That's all I can really say.
It sort of reminds me of the plot of Dragon Quest VII, which, oversimplifying it a little bit, the world is sort of broken, and you reassemble it like with literal puzzle pieces to rebuild the world. And Wes, I know it's more complicated than that, but we don't need to get into it right now. But I just the idea of seeing the world in its original state in Act One, then seeing it breaking and struggling and dying in Act Two, and then recontextualizing it in Act Three where it's still struggling, but you saved it from being broken, and now need to prevent the next tragedy from happening, because there are stakes and a conflict in Act Three, of course. It was satisfying to me, like, but to focus on the plot of it a little bit, because the hero knows exactly when Jasper's going to attack, and because he has a powerful sword that can withstand its attack, you basically defeat Jasper in a boss fight right at the beginning of Act Three. Mortigan does not reveal himself to be possessing King Carnelian. You go back to Heliodor to celebrate. Carnelian tries to kill you in your sleep, but you're able to stop him because you're half expecting it. And also, one of the little time ghosts sort of alerts you. That time ghost ends up being shockingly important in this game. Um, yeah, and you're able to oust Mordegon from Carnelian, defeat him, and basically prevent the Mordegon's apocalypse from happening. But then that little time ghost reveals itself to be a messenger of Kalasmos, the Dark One that was allegedly defeated by the hero Erdwin 1,000 years ago, or hundreds of years ago, whatever the I don't know what the exact timeline is. And it's all very messy and confusing. But in Act Two, there's a scene where Erdwin's lantern, the sort of the second moon in the sky, is about to fall and land on Gallipolis, but Mordegon destroys it, and it's revealed in Act Three that that was actually not just a lantern or a star or a moon. It is the sealed Dark One Kalasmos, and the reason Mordegon knew to destroy it was because Mordegon is one of the hero's companions, Morkant, from the time of the previous hero. And it goes into a huge drama where these four characters that you've learned about in Acts 1 and 2, the hero Erdwin, the sage Serenica, the warrior Drustan, and the sorcerer Morkant, were the original heroes party. But Morkant, out of some jealousy and because of Kalasmos sort of whispering into his ear, decides to kill Erdwin and take Kalasmos's power for himself. And in that pursuit of power, he becomes Mordegon, but a small part of his soul that was still good separated from Mordegon's body to sort of remain as the human Morkant. And Morkant's good soul is the seer that guided Eric and the Luminary and others quietly in a few scenes in Acts 1 and 2. So that those strange dream sequences when you talk to a mysterious transforming woman, that was actually the remnants of Morkant's soul trying to prevent Mordegon from destroying the world again. It's real. It's weird. It's real surreal. It's as weird as Dragon Quest has gotten over the as in my memory at least. But these odd circumstances meshing together, revisiting what happened in the time of Erdwin, results in a world state where Mordegon's gone. Your entire team of 8 is back together. The havens above, or the heavens above area, is not was never destroyed by Mordegon. So the little watchers there are able to guide you into and even give you all of your levels back that you gained in Act Two, to handle the new challenges of Act Three. And I think in every single town, other than maybe Heliodor, there's something new to do to make yourself stronger and prepare yourself for fighting Kalasmos. And I mean, there's a couple things you sort of have to do to you have to find these 3 Yggdrasil roots that teach you about what happened with Erdwin and how they were able to add armor to the flying whale to destroy the barrier around Kalasmos. So you unlock the ability to fight Kalasmos pretty early, but they encourage you to go out into the world and do as much stuff as you can before fighting him. and but it's kind of crazy what happens. Like if you go to Angry La, Grandmaster Pang was never killed by the explosion of Yggdrasil. She's there, not just a spirit, and like fully living to train the hero and Rab, and get a bunch of new abilities and equipment for passing her trials. And Hato never had its volcano go off early, so the priestess of Hato, who's trying to save her son, who was turned into a dragon, is able to save him without killing him, like you
Mm-hmm.
do in the Act Two storyline in Hato. So it's there's something new to do in every area of the game, and it's real weird, real crazy. I loved it. Like I spent way too long in Act Three just forging ultimate equipment, re-exploring every area. The weirdest retcon in Act Three is that the mermaid is able to survive the events of Act Two, even if she was turned into sea foam in Act One. Depends on what choice you made. But you can even like sort of put a new ending to that story. It's I'm rambling and I'm sorry, but was there any part of Act Three that stood out to you guys as being particularly interesting or satisfying before fighting Kalasmos?
Oh, I mean, so much of it was great. Uh, I like one thing I like about Act Three is that they don't really play out like side quests that you can track like conventionally. Like you kind of have to do some thinking. Like for example, the cobblestone rebuilding quest. You like Gemma, like you talk to Gemma in like the ruins of cobblestone, and like she gives you like some clues like as to where what kinds of people need to be in the town to like rebuild it. But it's up to you to like put together the pieces, and it was fun for me to like kind of like explore the world, trying to like trying to follow leads, like figure out who exactly she met. And it's rewarding too because like at the end like you can make because of that, like when it connects to like the Dresden labyrinth thing that you have to do. And you can make Gemma, like at least in the original game, you can make Gemma like your partner for life. It's like a really sweet moment, even though I don't like Gemma. I don't like Gemma for hero. I mean, I want Eric for hero.
In the
Personally.
in the S version, they never say wedding or marriage, but you do get to, instead of marrying Gemma, you get to choose which of your party members is going to be your new roommate or life partner, and you get a even a specific cutscene for each one of them. So
Oh, cool.
I naturally picked Sylvando. It was adorable. Uh, you can basically talk me into any of them becoming your roommate except for maybe Rab. I don't know. Um, it's at least worth going through once and then YouTubing the other six or seven, however many there are. But yeah. A part of the things you can unlock in Act Three is a new challenge area called Tristan's Labyrinth, which has you revisit dungeons from earlier in the game that are recontextualized. Usually, you have to go through them backwards with new enemies and new treasure. But every time you complete the labyrinth once, you get a wish from Drustin, which and one of the wishes is to become life partners with one of your party members. And eventually, if you get every single wish, he gives you the alchemy recipes for the most powerful weapons in the game.
Hmm.
Oh, you did that, right? So let's
Oh
go.
yeah, no, I did it. I didn't get every single rank 4 transforming weapon. I think I only got 4 or 5 of them, because
Hmm.
you need a lot of uber agates of evolution to get all 9 or however many there are. 'Cause I think the ultimate version of every single weapon except for the great sword and maybe the and yeah, I think it's every weapon except for maybe the great sword and wand, I think, are found in that in an evolving weapon. There's sort of two best wands. One heals MP every turn. One heals HP every turn. You can have Serena dual wield them if you really want to. And the best great sword is obtained by defeating the last Angri-La trial. Uh,
Oh, that was another fun thing to do.
yeah,
I enjoyed
exactly. And
that.
yeah, the Angri-La trials are like series of boss fights that get real crazy, and you get better rewards for defeating them in certain numbers of turns. So the classic thing to do is you got to pep up everyone beforehand. Have Serena and Veronica on one team so they can super magic burst one battle to just end it in one turn.
Yeah.
A lot of pink typhoon and pink tornado spamming. It gets yeah, they're pretty fun, but getting the best greatsword at the end was a requirement for me since I had my hero maining greatswords. But
Right.
yeah, I got most of the ultimate weapons, but I think I only upped a couple of them to their final stage, just because I didn't want to grind for uber agates of evolution. Whew, that was a lot in a row. I'm sorry, but yeah, the Dresden's Labyrinth and the life partner scenes that you unlock in Cobblestone are really sweet, and and yeah, rebuilding Cobblestone's one of the better side quests in Act Three. Totally agree. You unlock the best armor in the armor shop in the game once you finally fully rebuild it.
Uh, like for me, I personally didn't really have a favorite one among all of them, but what I really adore in this game is that it made me love to do backtracking. Like in other games, I wasn't really a fan of doing a lot of backtracking stuff, but in the first act of the game, you recruit all of these members scattered all around the world, and then in the second part, you gather them again one by one, and it's crazy that in Act Three, you still go back to each of these towns, and there's still so much things to do, and instead of feeling like, oh, it's such a pain in the ass, like, I have to go back to this, I didn't feel that at all, and they just managed to make you more curious now. Oh, I should check out this area, maybe they have something new to um to show or something. So that that's the thing that I really like in this game.
Yeah, they because there's something new in literally every town, it makes revisiting them act to act really valuable and rewarding, especially in Act Three.
Hmm.
But here's the real question, Wes. I know this is a game you've played. What has the better post game, Lunar 2 or Dragon Quest 11?
Oh man, I kind of want to say Dragon Quest 11 just because it's the rewards at the end, the completion like of the story. All of it makes the game feel more complete to me, whereas Lunar 2 doesn't necessarily feel incomplete.
I only brought that up because I know you're a big Lunar fan,
Yeah.
Wes, as am I. And Lunar 2 was my answer to what game has the best post game, excuse me, until Dragon Quest 11, because it's just it's so much fun. It's rewarding doing everything, like revisiting every area. There's something new to discover, and it ends with a credit sequence that I think we talked about at the very beginning of this
Yeah.
episode, where it goes through every Dragon Quest game in the credits in its original version, usually with Japanese text, that it just has you feel every ounce of nostalgia that the series can possibly squeeze out of you all at once, and it's so powerful. And it ends with the hero giving the sword of light to the time ghost that was inhabiting the hourglass that had you go back in time beforehand, because you eventually learned that it was in fact Serenica, the sage that was in love with Erdwin the hero. Erdwin is similar to Erdrick, the hero name for Dragon Quest 3. And in Japanese, the Dragon Quest 3 hero is Roto, and the hero here is Roshu. And he gives Serenica the sword, and she uses it to go back in time to prevent Roshu slash Erdwin's death before the events of Dragon Quest 11 can happen. And briefly, I was worried because I was thinking, oh, does that mean that nothing happens in Dragon Quest 11 at all? Does it undo the entire history of the game? But then there's a post game scene where the hero Veronica and Serena meet the dragon at the center of the Yggdrasil. I think it's called the Ig Dragon, and that's another Dragon Quest 3 reference, because there's the Ig Dragon or Egg Dragon. That's one of the gods of the world there too. But basically, I think that ending tells us that we're always in search of lost time, which is another subtitle of this game, and And like if you had the power to do that, would you? Is it worth it if it destroys an entire other world? But then they tell you, oh, it doesn't destroy the entire other world, because even though you sent Serenica back in time and she prevented history from occurring, the world of the Luminary and Serena and Veronica is still ongoing. So I think that comforted me a little bit when I realized, like, oh, okay, so the world I left behind at the end of Act Two is not gone and destroyed. They're still living on, just without the Luminary. But it also it gives you this really sweet ending where the like Serenica never has to live through her 1,000 years of tragedy, and then it flashes forward to a woman's voice saying "Cooey, cooey, time to wake up," which is the very opening scene of Dragon Quest III. So it posits a world where there's multiple branches of a timeline or time tree going on at once, and in the events of Dragon Quest XI, you create the events of Dragon Quest III. It's bonkers to say that out loud, but
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's what's going on for most of what's going on here. And is what I'm saying making sense, or have I truly devolved into being a crazy rambling video game podcaster? Because that may be true.
No, it makes total sense. Actually, I didn't realize what you said, like that the world of Act Two kind of lives on. I didn't get that out of the ending, but it makes a lot of sense, and it's comforting because like I wanted I wanted a world where Serena got to have that development in her character. So I like that.
Yeah. It's not really gone. It's just not the Luminary story to see that through.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, so many moments in this game made tears well up in my eyes. Whether it's the Luminary meeting Chalky in a flashback, or Rab remembering what happened to his daughter, or Serena losing Veronica, or even the Luminary seeing Veronica again and just being awestruck by seeing her alive again. Everything that happens in the Mermaid side quest, the end credits where you see 30 or yeah 35 year or plus years of Dragon Quest play out, and ending with like Serenica and Erdwin getting the Romeo and Juliet slow run towards each other at the end. Like the Tchaikovsky ballet, da 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 da, like getting that together. Just everything about this game just tugs at the heartstrings and at nostalgia in a way that was so effective. It really is. It feels like sort of a culmination of Dragon Quest that makes me so curious what their approach is for Dragon Quest 12 is going to be, because like Dragon Quest 11 is about memory and nostalgia and family. Dragon Quest 12 promises not to be that. Does anyone have any idea for, like, we're told that it's going to be a darker, different Dragon Quest. Before we end the episode, I want you to give me one Dragon Quest hope. Sorry, one Dragon Quest 12 hope that you have, because we have very little other than a subtitle, "The Flames of Fate," right now. Does anyone have any ideas or hopes?
I'm hoping that it doesn't fall too far down the mature rabbit hole. It still has that optimism and hope that I maintain as part of the series DNA. Because mature doesn't have to mean just dour, depressing, and violent. And sometimes the video game industry doesn't remember that. So I want to see mature, but still true to Dragon Quest DNA like that.
Everything that happened in DQ11, I really have no clue what do they plan to do in 12, which makes me really excited because I like it when I have zero clue on what's gonna happen next, or what do they even plan to do, and how are they gonna top 11. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go smaller in 12 after 11 was so successful. Because this was a mega hit. Like a lot of people, for
Yeah.
not just 10, I think 11 was their first Dragon Quest game, because it
Mhm.
made a pretty big splash in 2018 and is playable on most platforms now, and it was, you know, critically successful and I think financially successful. The Dragon Quest 12 has maybe bigger shoes to fill than any Dragon Quest game, period. because I think there was a spike in popularity after Dragon Quest 8 and 9 because they were hugely successful and on successful platforms. But 11 might be, following 11, I think this is maybe the most popular Dragon Quest has ever been worldwide. So
Yeah.
I don't know what 12 is going to do. I think they will try to do something different. I just hope that we get, a little bit more than ba 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 bow ba 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 bow.
I'm actually hoping that that music is still there.
You've really brought it back
Look,
around for
I'm
us.
I'm telling you, like there are 20 battle themes in Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I would just love for them to be more than 2 or 3 in Dragon Quest 12.
Well, hopefully, they would really add more music tracks this time.
Or at least maybe not use it during cutscenes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That
yeah,
could be an
like that
improvement.
Hendrik
Well, I
scene.
mean, I am hoping that Dragon Quest 12 represents a musical evolution in the series that Dragon Quest 11 maybe didn't have. But one thing I do know I believe in is that I am so glad I replayed this game for the podcast and got to talk about it with such a delightful panel. Thank you so much, Wes, Tin, and Geo, for joining me on this very nostalgic revisit of what I've said over and over is probably my favorite video game of the entire 2010s. It was a delight playing this game again and a delight talking to y'all about it. So thank you for that.
Oh, I'm happy to be here, and I'm glad I finally played the Q11, and it was also my first game of the year. So it's like the bar is pretty high for
A
my
heck of a game
Q1
for your
right
first
now.
one of the year.
Yeah, if you really want to feel let down, play Dragon Quest 2 next. Is all I'm gonna say.
That way you can see the highs and the lows.
I don't understand the dislike for Dragon Quest 2. Like I thought it was just like more of the same like from the first one. And
Dragon Quest 2 is not bad. I just genuinely hate the last 2 hours of it because you have to do road to Roan and then Roan Castle and then 5 bosses in a row, maybe 6 bosses in a row. I'd have to double check that.
oh,
Without any ability to heal or save between any of them.
Oh
I see.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drag
And I played it. I never finished it on the NES. I ended up playing that on the Game Boy Color for the first time, where it's probably worse on the NES.
yeah, the problem is that like one of the blessings of Dragon Quest 1 is it's mercifully brief. Like maybe mercifully brief is overstating it a little bit. But it doesn't overstay its welcome for how simplistic it is. And Dragon Quest 2 does not have a commiserate increase in complexity for how much longer and more involved it is, and those last 2 hours are just Final
Yeah,
Fantasy 3 levels of brutal,
Yeah, Dragon Quest 2 is
maybe
twice
even
as long
higher.
and twice as hard as the first one. And I mostly blame your second character from dying all the time.
Yeah, fair.
Ah man, like screw the Prince of Canuck. But all right, if I'm talking about my frustrations of about a 1987 RPG that and not a beloved 2018 RPG, I think we've reached the end of the podcast. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this 2 episode Dragon Quest 11 journey, a hero's journey of that compares to few other games of its era. And but I think we're probably done talking about Dragon Quest for a while on this podcast, unless we're talking about another game inspired by Dragon Quest. Next, I'm not sure exactly what the order is going to be, but the next 2 weeks of Retro Encounter are going to be one spoiler cast on Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, the game I was playing for most of February after playing Dragon Quest 11 for most of January, and then an episode on Dragon Age 2 to follow up our Dragon Age Oranges episodes from December. So the Year of the Dragon continues into March with Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth and Dragon Age 2. And after those 2 games, we are going to play Final Fantasy IV for the podcast, which is, I don't know, pretty high up on our list of I can't believe you haven't played that game yet for Retro Encounter. And there's, Dragoons and Dragons in Final Fantasy IV, but I think that pretty much marks the end of our Year of the Dragon celebrations. Because after Final Fantasy IV, we haven't finished planning out most of April yet, but I believe that it will have a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth episode and probably also a Musou / Warriors episode
Well,
where I might talk about a different Dragon Quest game when that one comes around. So Yeah, that's what we're doing in Retro Encounter through April. We're not the only podcast on the RPG Fan Podcast Network. There's also Random Encounter every 2 weeks about randomness and what games are playing, as well as Rhythm Encounter about rhythmness and RPG music. You can review or rate Retro, Random, and Rhythm Encounter on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or however you listen to podcasts. But RPG Fan is not only a podcast network. We are a website, rpgfan.com, where we post articles every day, a Discord server where we have chats going on every day, and also presences on multiple social media locations such as Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, always called either RPG Fan or RPG Fancom. But also another great way to support RPG Fan is to go to rpgfan.com/shop, where we have an apparel store hosted by TeePublic, where you can get RPG Fan shirts, mugs, baby onesies, phone cases, and all manner of things emblazoned with the RPG Fan Emerald Shield, as well as a link to Hyperplay RPG, where you can buy, which is a UK-based publisher, where you can buy RPG Fan's first official book, a bound tome of over 300 pages of one-page review cards showing over 25 years of RPG Fan reviews. I think, oh boy, Wes, you and I both have reviews in that one.
Yes, absolutely.
It's an amazing tome, and I absolutely recommend you picking one up from Hyperplay RPG if you have the time and funds to do so. But if you have the time to do so, we would love to have you reach out to us as a podcast by emailing retro@rpgfan.com or reaching out to us as individuals on our social media accounts. How can the folks find us? Let's tell them, starting with you, Gio.
Yeah, you can find me at Geo on Discord. I go by Geo there. And then you can also email me at geo@rpgfan.com.
Now, Wes.
You can find me on Twitter at Wes Iliff, on Blue Sky at Lone Weasel, or occasionally on Discord, where I'm just Wes.
Now, Tin.
Oh, you can just also find me on RPG Fan Discord. My name there is Justin.
And listeners, if you want to find me on the internet, the easiest way to do so is to go to either Instagram, Blue Sky, or RPG Fans Discord, on all three of which I am called Evoker for Dogs. So, yeah, I guess this dragon's journey is over, and I feel good that I didn't accidentally call it Dragon Age a single time, because all the times I did call it Dragon Age, I've definitely edited out.
Didn't happen once.
Didn't happen a single time. I promise. Thank you, good night, and good luck.